afternoon, team. Lee Allison here with Allison Agile. We are here today with our third Agile leadership lesson. And just a quick reminder, this video series is aimed at people who are agilists, agile change agents, leadership, evangelists, people who are responsible for moving the organization from less agile towards more agile. And we're covering core concepts that I feel that leaders need to understand. Last week, we talked about the RV conversation, how to make sure that the right work is going in front of your teams. This week, we're going to be talking about the lie of 100%. And with 100%, I'm referring to your team's capacity. How much work are you planning on giving your team? And the analogy that we're going to be using today is a piece of freeway. This particular piece of freeway is Interstate 35, IH-35. It runs from South Texas all the way up to the Great Lakes. And it certainly goes through Austin city limits here as well. Wherever you are in the world, either inside or outside the United States, you've probably got a piece of freeway somewhere near you or some sort of traffic infrastructure that is continually overloaded. And I want you to keep that piece of infrastructure in mind for today's lesson, okay? Now, right here, what we have is complete and total fallacy. I-35 is never empty at any time of the day or the week. So let's start off our lesson today by putting a little piece of traffic on it. This is not much traffic. It's a semi-tractor trailer far in the distance ahead of you with plenty of follow space between your front bumper and the back of this semi. Now, what happens if this semi decides to hit its brakes? What happens if these brake lights all flare? Well, in this scenario, you have options. You've got at least three ready to execute on options. You could pull your wheel over towards the left-hand lane and keep right on going without ever breaking stride. You don't even have to touch your brakes. You could come over here to the right-hand lane, same as here. You could just go around the sucker, no problems whatsoever, right? You also could just simply brake harder than the semi does and you're still safe. In fact, with this much follow room, you might be able to not do a thing for just a few more seconds, monitor the situation and see how it develops. Maybe the semi didn't actually hit the brakes. Maybe the driver's foot just happened to have touched the brake pedal enough to light up the lights. Maybe the semi doesn't actually pose a threat. I mean, it's possible, right? So you've got four easy to implement options, any one of which will keep you from impacting the back of this trailer. Now, again, this is while this freeway is substantially less than 100% loaded to capacity. So let's change that, shall we? If the semi is at 100% capacity, it's going to look a little bit differently. In fact, it's going to look something about like this. That semi is much closer. If the freeway is at 100% capacity, you have to be right on this guy's backside. But in addition to the semi, you're also going to have traffic on other sides. This is what a fully loaded freeway is going to start to look like. Come on, tape, cooperate. My tape's been giving me fits today. Last week it was my stickies. This week it's my tape. All right, that's okay. We'll muscle through it. We'll make this work. Okay, so in this particular scenario, what happens when the big guy here in the center hits his brakes? Now all of a sudden, you've got exactly one option. Either you brake harder than he does, or you're going to run into him. That's it. I mean, you could choose to run into one of these if you wanted to, but that's not a better outcome. It's not an improved scenario for you in any way, shape, or form. Either you brake harder than the traffic at 100% capacity, or you're going to hit somebody. Now, this lesson seems fairly self-evident, and we practice it as leaders and managers. We practice exactly this when we're talking about giving our people work. Let's assume that I've got a team member that I know is going to be working 40 hours this upcoming week. I know better than to give that person 40 hours worth of work. For most organizations, there's an 80-20 rule that comes into effect. You give them 80% of their capacity and leave that other 20% so that they can go around the semi, right? Well, if we're going to do that to people, why wouldn't we do the same thing to teams? Teams are much more than just a collection of people. They are their own distinct entity. Teams have their own culture, their own appetites, their own preferences, their own things that they bark at. All of this. It's like one person is this and teams are more of that. So if we wouldn't load our people up to 100%, why would we load our teams up to 100%? You shouldn't. And some of the major frameworks, very specifically Scaled Agile, has that sort of capacity reservation built into it. If you'd like to know more about how Scaled Agile can help you reserve some capacity for your teams, your release trains, your solution trains, and your organization, reach out to me. I'm happy to set up a discussion with you. But right now, the lesson that I want you to get more than anything else, you cannot run your teams at 100% capacity and expect anything other than disaster. Don Reinertson said it very, very well. Running any system at 100% capacity is a recipe for disaster. And that's the lesson I'm trying to get for you today. So take a look at your teams. Are you running them at 100% capacity? When was the last time a team had a sprint solely dedicated to buffer for the sprints prior to it? Probably it's been a while, right? Well, if so, these are things that you can do to help your teams along. All right, that about does it for today's Agile Leadership lesson. Thank you very much for tuning in. We're starting to collect a few subscribers. If this series is valuable to you, hit the link, the subscribe button, hit the like button, share it with your friends and family. All that's free. Until then, I wish you guys to all have a very good weekend. Next week, we're going to be coming back and we're going to be talking about the difference between velocity, capacity, and load. Those are three very closely related but very distinctly different things. We're going to be talking about that next week. So until then, take good care of yourself, be safe, especially in this day and age. Take really good care of the people around you and be just as agile as you can be. We'll catch you guys next week. Take care of yourselves. Bye now.